And we're live. All right. Thanks everyone for coming out to the HubSpot Admins Hug. Super excited to talk about beyond personalization here. Brian, take it away.
Awesome. Kyle, thank you so much for having us. Deanna, thank you again for the opportunity. And everybody around the world, I really appreciate the time that you're spending here with us, going through some personalization and some advanced ways you can use HubSpot tokens in places other than just, hi first name and signing off with a contact owner name. So I'm excited. I'm excited to share this with you. And first, before we get started, well, first I'll get my screen share going. We'll do that first, and then we'll get into it here. Awesome. So we should see that cover slide. First, I want to give a major shout out to Ryan Gunn and Jordan Michaelitis at Aptitude8, who were pretty instrumental in putting today's presentation together for you and some of the demos that we have cooked up. So I want to give them a huge shout out first, and then want to get into it today. So I really appreciate you being here, going through this with us. Obviously, Kyle and Deanna. But a little bit about myself. My name is Brian Serocke, and I'm a solutions consultant here at Aptitude8. I'm a massive data nerd, as much as I would imagine everyone who's attending this is also. So we are all amongst our fellow community here. I'm a former HubSpot agency owner. Used to run a platinum solutions partner agency for quite a while, actually. Which was acquired last year. And so I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity this year to join the Aptitude8 crew, which I'm over the moon about, which is really cool. I'm a dad. I've got 2 young kids, 5 and 2. So I'm kind of going through the thick of it right now, but they're great. I'm so fortunate that we get to have that opportunity. And then I also like playing golf. I'm not a great golfer. I'm like more of a beers and bogeys guy. So if you're a golfer out there, that's a main thing that I love to do. And then I would definitely say that if I had one more meal on earth, it would probably be sushi. I don't know why, but sushi just does it for me. So and I'm located outside of San Diego in California, here in the US. So a little bit about me. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, obviously. So please reach out. A little bit about Aptitude8. Aptitude8 is an elite HubSpot solutions partner. And we've got experience across RevOps, marketing ops, web ops, AI ops, and solutions architecture. So I think we're really focused on finding ways that we can help clients and help HubSpot customers implement and integrate and optimize and extend the way in which they're using HubSpot and the way in which HubSpot is either centered into or plugs into their tech stack. So I think we really focus on taking a consultative approach and being a truly trusted consulting partner for our clients and focusing on delivering technical solutions, making sure that we are meeting our clients where they are and helping them meet their customers where they are. So want to get into what we're talking about today. There's a lot baked into this presentation. Ryan and Jordan did a really great job of putting together some really helpful and valuable stuff for you. I've got a few demos I want to go through today with you. So I'm going to kind of fly through it a little bit. If there are any questions, please utilize that Q&A, upvote questions that you want to talk about. I'm going to leave some room for questions at the end, or at least that's my hope. But today we're going to talk about what a token is in HubSpot and kind of the anatomy of it, which is important in terms of thinking about how you're using them elsewhere. Then we'll talk about, you've got your typical uses, but how can we get more from using a HubSpot token? We'll talk about how we can build them into hyperlinks and what you can do with that, how you can customize images and kind of use dynamic HTML to serve things based on a token that you're storing for an object. Then we'll get into how you can use them as URL parameters. There's a couple of use cases I've had come up with clients in the past that I wanted to share with you today. And so we'll talk about that, and then we'll get into some thinking about how you can kind of customize large chunks of text. And I got a little exciting announcement for you surrounding AI at the end here. So that's it. I would say we do have a lot of demos, and I'm going to be clicking into a couple portals today. But this is meant to inspire you. This is meant to get your wheels turning, kind of get your brain turning about how you can use tokens in your own use cases for your own business, or If you're a partner agency or partner consulting firm, then how you can use that for your clients. So by no means are these demos exact things that you should go get done or you should go start building into your portal, but really meant to try and motivate you to think about how you can use tokens differently, or maybe use them in ways that you haven't really thought of in the past. So before we get into that anatomy of what a token is, why are we even thinking about personalization, and what does it really mean for personalization to have an impact on your business? And so ultimately, we're fostering better connection, right? Connection with leads or prospects or customers. Those people are looking for personalized experiences. We've got a McKinsey report from 2021 that says that 78% of those customers or consumers are converting at higher rates. And so personalization is having actual material impact on the way in which businesses are operating and the results that they're getting. And then from there, we're also, I think one of the cool things and one of the demos that we have today is about inputting more accurate data and trying to make it easier for your HubSpot users, your sales reps, your SDRs or BDRs, your AEs, your ops people, to get directly to a property that they need to update on an individual object, not hoping that they know exactly how to navigate the UI, because obviously user adoption is always it's always a little bit of hit and miss sometimes. So that being said, let's jump into what a token looks like. So obviously we all know, and I would imagine that most of us are pretty adept HubSpot users. We all know how to select the token in the UI, right? Click the personalized piece, use a little modal window to select the token, select an object, select the token. But what does that code actually look like? And so on the contacts and companies front, obviously we have some settings in the portal that allow you to define default values. So when you actually are using a token for a contact or a company object, you really only have to consider those opening curly braces, identifying the object itself, so contact or company, using a period or a dot there, and then directly followed by the internal name of that property, right? And then closing it obviously with some curly braces. That's going to rely on using the default values that you set for those in the portal settings to fall back on if that value is not known or that token misfires in some way. For other objects, you can also use them for contacts and companies, but in terms of other objects, the default anatomy that you're going to see are those opening braces again, followed by the word personalization _ token. Excuse me. And then we've got some parentheses. We identify the token that we're looking for within a single quote there. So in this example, we've got the deal object and the amount from the deal. And then we have a comma, and then we identify the default value in a separate set of single quotes. We close that parenthesis and then close the braces. So this is important to know, because when you're using this token in certain areas of HubSpot, and you'll see that in the demos today, sometimes it is helpful to use this anatomy and this code to define a different default value maybe for that specific use case than what you've got for contacts and companies. Or if you're using it for a different object, say it's another standard object or even another custom object that you have, you would want to define what that default value is so it doesn't break the experience. So
I'm going to hop in here real quick.
Yeah.
I'm already learning stuff from you. This is things I did not know about HubSpot. Just one more time on the other objects. Personalization token, that you actually write those words. Personalization token.
You actually write those words. It looks like this, and a good differentiation. I know we probably have a lot of international users. When you write it, you have to write it using American English. So you have to use personalization with a Z, the letter Z, as in zebra. Instead of, say, I know a lot of maybe like UK English or other areas around the world use an S instead of a Z. If you use an S, the token won't render. So you will need to make sure that you're using a Z and use the American English. You can't blame me for that. You can blame some product person at HubSpot.
Blame me. I'll take your blame.
That's fine. You can blame Kyle. Kyle doesn't really need the blame, but anyway, a good thing to note there is that you want to make sure you're using the Z in personalization if you're using this approach for inserting a token somewhere. So. Any other questions, or are we good to keep going?
No, I just want to make sure that was clarified, because like default value, you're going to actually put in what you want the default value to be, right?
You're going to put, yeah. So what you see within the single quote here is going to be the actual default value that's going to appear if, say, like amount was unknown for this particular deal. That default value that you put within the code is going to be what appears in its place, in that personalization token's place. So this is helpful. You will need to do this for objects that don't have those default values in portal settings, right? Contacts and companies have that, but you don't have those for other standard objects or custom objects. And then if you are using it for contact or company, but you want to define a different default value in a particular place, then you would want to use this type of notation here. And we'll talk about it too when we get into a demo here in a minute.
Cool. You can go on. I just want to make sure everyone was clear on which parts of that were like hard coded in and which parts were.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. So we all know typical uses, right? You can pull up a personalization token in an email template or use it on a landing page. This is kind of your bread and butter personalization that I think a lot of people are probably implementing and experiencing right now. And this is great. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't do this. There's no reason you have to change your workflow currently to use a different type of personalization code or anything like that. So please continue. But here today, we really want to talk about extending beyond just the typical use case that you would see or that you would you would find users doing in your portal. And so before we get into those demos and talking about how you can apply them, I do want to back up and first pose a few questions for you to consider. How and where are you using them? How are you going to use this token? What context are you using it within? It's going to be really important to consider that. Does it even make sense for your use case to put a personalization token in right now? I think that's it's more of a strategic question that you want to think about at the beginning, rather than just getting excited about using personalization and start plugging it into everywhere. Really be considerate about how you are deciding to implement or apply this to that, and think not only just about how you are technically doing it, but then what is that end user, the person that's going to receive this particular asset, content, go through this experience. What are they going to experience? What's their, kind of empathize a little with them and understand how are they going to receive this? What does it mean for them to get this type of token? So, and then always consider the fallback default value. If you're using a token in a place where there might not be a value known for that particular object or record, then what are you putting there as a default value that will not break the experience and will keep it continuous, right? So really important to think about those two first and have clear answers to these first before you go to implement a token opportunity here. So let's get into it. So one of the use cases that we've had in the past, or that has come up in the past, is how can we use personalization tokens in hyperlinks, right? There are a lot of opportunities here for you to customize the link that you're using, whether it's a destination link for somewhere or or the way in which you're using links for reporting, that can be really helpful. So I think one of the use cases you want to think about, providing a direct link to somewhere, finding a way to streamline your workflows and your emails that you're building, and using a dynamic link instead of having to build an individual email and an individual if-then branch for this one particular use case or this one particular data point. And then how are we concentrating data input at that time when there has to be manual data input in your portal? How are you concentrating that for better accuracy and follow through, better adoption from that end user who has to go and actually make that change? So we'll get into some demos here. This first one here is, let's say that you are collecting a form, and that form is asking this property interest area. And you want to send that particular person who filled out that form a relevant webinar that you've pre-recorded or that's already going, right? So instead of, I'm sure you can already see the workflow in your mind. Enrollment trigger says they filled out that form. Then I've got some if-then branching, and their interest area is this. Send this email. If their interest area is this, send this email. And we don't want to do any of that because that's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be a lot of asset build. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And we can utilize a personalization token here using this interest area property to be able to dynamically change that URL based on what they submitted in the form. So we're going to create an enumeration property that we're going to plug into our form. And that's going to be this interest area property here. And if you guys need me to punch in here, if this is too small, let me know, and I can also zoom in on the screen share. But what you can see here is we've got this interest area.
Yeah, people are saying, yes, please zoom in.
Too small. You got it. I'll do that. You let me know if it's still too small. So we've got this interest area property here in the form, right? This is an enumeration property, drop-down property. And we've got all these values in here for what type of, say, service or interest that they're into. You can see that the internal value here is a all lowercase value, and these are going to actually operate as URL slugs in a dynamic link that we're going to be sending later. So we don't really need to use a workflow to set anything or anything like that. As soon as that contact fills this form out and selects this interest area, then what we're going to do is we're going to build a workflow that's going to automate an email to that particular contact, right? And when we send this email here, we're going to send this email. We'll jump into the email itself, and you can notice in the workflow we don't have we're not branching on interest area. We're not we didn't build 5 different webinar recommendation emails to be different for that interest area specifically that they selected. Instead, we've got a very simple workflow, and this has got, we put a smart module up here so you can change text, right, based on, maybe they selected marketing. But here you can see on the button, we're actually using a personalization token to point this contact to a relevant landing page for a webinar that's relevant to the interest area that they selected. Of course, this means that you would want to have a landing page set for the value that's in that form or a URL slug that would match. But here, we don't have to do a whole lot more than use a personalization token in here. And then as we go ahead and preview this, we'll pull up our test contact here. We go ahead and preview this here. We can see that our smart rule fired and changed the opening text. And then here, when we click on this, we can see that this particular contact selected RevOps in the form. And so now we take them to the RevOps landing page where they can they can submit this webinar landing page. Now, this is a demo page, obviously, so please disregard what you see on the page itself. But the idea being here that we're using a personalization token to make that URL dynamic. And we can find a way to streamline the way in which we're building things in HubSpot and make them, but also provide a relevant experience to that particular contact. So I've got a second one for you. This one actually just came up not too recently, came up recently. We had a client who needed to, for whatever reason, they had a specific requirement for a rep to manually update a particular property when a record hits a certain milestone or in their use case, it was a deal in a deal stage. And so as soon as it hits a deal in a deal stage, we couldn't automate setting a particular property, but we needed the rep to manually enter some data. Now, instead of just linking the rep directly to the record page itself, and then waiting for them to click on the view all properties, search for the property itself, and then update it appropriately, which is a few different steps, a few different clicks. What we can do is we can actually take the object that's enrolled in a workflow. We can swap the record ID with a personalization token, and we can send that rep directly to that property on that record itself. So here, what we're going to do is we're just going to take the object that's enrolled, and we're going to build a workflow that says, hey, for example, here, the contact owner is known, we're going to send a new internal email notification to the contact owner. And let's say the contact owner in this case needs to check the interest area property. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, you've been assigned this new contact. Please update that property here. And you can see that the URL here is linking to is linking to that particular record object in HubSpot. Then it uses the record ID to pull the record, the ID of the object, that's the record that's enrolled in here. And then we're appending this properties search with the particular property that we want them to update. And then, so when we think about how this is happening, that contact owner is going to get an email notification that's going to say, hey, go update this property. And that link, which is right here, is going to take that particular sales rep or whoever it is, contact owner, directly to my demo contact record, directly to that property that I need to update to be able to go ahead and update it. So no longer am I waiting for a rep to get here, understand how to navigate this page, view all properties, go search for interest area, right? You can take them directly to it. And it's going to help you streamline data, manual data input. Now, obviously, this is happening on an individual record basis, so you want to consider that. But this use case came up, and I want to make sure that we shared it with you guys, because this is something that we've seen happen in the past, and can be really helpful to help drill down into a specific property on a specific record.
So Amanda says her life is forever changed, and Jean says my sales reps are going to hate me.
Use it with caution, I would say. But yeah, it's been helpful to streamline things so that you think about the way in which your users are adopting and how you are trying to, from an operations perspective, how you're thinking about how can you reduce the number of clicks, make the experience better, and ultimately make sure that people are actually following through with what needs to happen. So this is a cool option for you to consider. Let's get into customizing images here. Excuse me. So one of the cool things with personalization tokens is, so long as you are storing appropriate HTML, or you're storing a URL potentially for an image in a property somewhere, you can actually recall that within HTML anywhere that HTML is being used within HubSpot. And so you can dynamically change image content based on a particular property. And you can personalize that outreach at scale. You think you're running, think about running an ABM campaign and being able to personalize a landing page experience for a particular prospect with their company logo and their company name. This is a super easy way to do that, just using a personalization token. And so here, what we did is we created a company logo. So in that case, we're going to create a company logo property. Right now, this is living on a contact object, but you could very easily do this on the company record itself too. And I mentioned that because a lot of lead enrichment, or say like enrichment platforms, tools that people are using, might even provide this for you, right? That might be one of the data points that they pull from an enrichment standpoint. And you could actually map that directly to your company object property. So you wouldn't have to go and manually source these if you needed to. But so we're going to go ahead and store that on, we'll store that URL, right, of that logo. Here, we'll just go ahead and copy that to show you that's a valid URL here, right? We got a logo for the volume company here. And we're going to use that as a source URL inside of, excuse me. Oh man, I'm working on getting over a cold too. So we're going to use that inside of a landing page to personalize the landing page experience here. So obviously you can see we've got our company name here. We've got a couple of different things that we can personalize, but this company logo piece here, let me punch in for you guys again. This company logo piece, if we go ahead and look at the source code, you can see that the source code includes an image. And if you know HTML, an image that's got a source, that is this company logo. Now you can see we're using contact here, but we are using that full personalization underscore token because we want to recall the company logo from the contacts record. But if that doesn't exist, then we're just going to go ahead and show this default value, which is this default logo that we've got set up in here. So we wanted to make sure that the experience was not going to break, that they weren't going to see something like this experience if we didn't have a value for them. And so if we go and preview this page and we go and we preview it as our contact, then we're going to see our company logo personalized for the company, the contact, the company that they work at. And now here, you can fill it out here with further information as you need to. So cool way to dynamically change images. Now, don't think about this as just only in landing pages. You can obviously put an HTML module into emails. If you're building custom quotes or you have a custom quote template, then you can also do this on, on your quotes too. So let's jump into URL parameters. I think this is a really fun one. There are a couple of ways in which I wanted to share with you some ideas here. So both based on use cases we've had from past clients. So in using personalization tokens, sometimes you can use them to create customized reporting based on data that you have in HubSpot. And think about this in terms of passing data that you have in HubSpot to maybe a third-party tool like Google Analytics or somewhere else that is capturing UTM data and maybe doesn't have a direct integration with HubSpot, or you need to find a way to get your HubSpot data into this particular system that has the ability to capture that stuff. So we're going to talk about that. And then I also want to chat with you about automating meeting links, form submissions, since meeting links don't have the ability to hide fields in the form, right? So if you add a custom form or custom field to the form, you can't really hide that much the way you can in the regular form editor. But using a personalization token in a particular link, you can actually pass a value to that form field, and then auto submit that form, make the experience better for people that are booking meetings with you. So, for example, this use case here, I had a past client who wanted to memorialize the lifecycle stage that a particular contact was in when they submitted a high value form, right? A form that was going to graduate them to MQL or SAL or something like that. But they wanted to know what was the lifecycle stage that they had at the moment they submitted the form before they got changed to MQL or SAL or something else. So that's kind of the use case. So what you could do here is you could say you're building a link. Oh man, I'm trying. Sorry, guys. Say you've got this email that you're going to send out, right? And we now have a RevOps webinar that we want to share, and we want people to send this out here. What we can do, this link, instead of sending it just to a regular URL to one of your HubSpot pages, you choose it to a URL, and then you can append here. For those of you familiar with UTM parameters, you append it by putting it after a question mark at the end of the URL string. And so here we're sending people to our RevOps webinar landing page, but we're passing the contact's lifecycle stage as the UTM content parameter. And so we can know that when we look at form submissions on this webinar landing page, anything that contains a UTM content form submission that contains a particular lifecycle stage, we'll be able to report on that or segment contacts on that, or see that in maybe form conversion events in Google Analytics too. So what we can do is we can pass that. So for example, this contact, this brian@volume.com, this contact has submitted that free trial form, and you can see now that they are a marketing qualified lead after submitting that form. But you can see when they originally submitted it that the UTM content that came through was lead. So now we're going to be able to use this to segment and refine and report later on. Excuse me. And we'll be able to then pass this information over to anywhere that we wanted to. So this is going to tell you, say, hey, when people are submitting this form, are we getting more leads that are submitting this form? Are we getting more subscribers that are submitting this form? Are we getting more people that don't have a lifecycle stage or are coming straight to free trial sign up? Helpful for you to be able to drill down into what's happening from a conversion standpoint. Oh no. We'll jump back in. Okay. Also thinking about URL parameters and thinking about that meetings link piece. When you are creating a meetings link, you obviously can pre-populate fields and you can auto submit them when they're known. But what happens when you have, say, a custom field in your form? And here's a sample meetings link. Oh, I'm going to get some water. 1 second.
as a person who is also getting over a cough, I feel for you. I was so excited to just mute myself and not have to talk today, and now I feel bad.
Oh man,
You're
I
suffering as much as I would
apologize.
be.
I apologize, everybody. I promise I'm not trying to cough in your ear. But we'll get back to it here. I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So let's say that we added a custom field for product interest to this meetings link form. Obviously, there's no way for us to make this hidden, right? Say we wanted to like pass a value for this or something like that. And we don't necessarily want to leave it on there for the contact to have to fill out. But we do know that we want to pre-populate the fields with known values, and we want to auto-submit the form. Now, if we are sending a link out to a contact in our database, we know our first name, we know their last name, we know their email address. Maybe we don't know product interest, but we don't want to have to ask them to select the time on the meetings link and then also go select the product interest when we know we're sending out a campaign about a particular product, right? And this works well from a sequence perspective too. If SDRs are say like, or AEs are sending out a note specifically for a certain type of value. This is one use case, but so we've got our meetings link set up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to insert that link into into an email. So here we want to discuss our GC 1000 series product. And so please book a meeting with me to learn more about this GC 1000. So now you can see this meetings link is not just a meetings link from the drop down here, but it's a URL that's using a personalization token. And here what we're doing is we're actually passing all of the fields that are in the meetings link form. We're passing that into the form itself on the meetings link. You can probably see where I'm going here, but we've got our meetings link right here. Then we've got our first name that we're filling in. We're filling in our last name. We're filling in the email. And then here's that product interest field that's sitting in the form. And we're going to pre-populate it with the GC 1000 series product, right? And so when we go ahead and we look at this particular contact, I'm going to use myself as an example. So we're previewing this as a contact. I'm an SDR. I'm going to send this to this contact to talk about the GC 1000. I'm going to go ahead and link them to my calendar link. I'm going to choose a thing. And you can see I didn't get taken to the form to fill out my product interest because that was already passed using this personalization token that's up here in the URL string. And so now we didn't have to require that prospect to make an extra selection. We didn't have a way to set it as a default value. We set it as a default value using the parameter that we passed in the URL. And so now when we go over to, I just got my email that I got a meeting booked with me. But when we go to that example contact here, we can see here that their product interest was set to GC 1000 series. And they just submitted this form. Obviously, there's no properties updated because I've done this a couple of times to test it, but we get this updated here based on that form submission. So it makes it easier for your prospects or your leads to fill out a meetings link if you are directing them to a specific type of product or some type of value that you want to pass and make it quote unquote hidden, even though you can't do that within a meetings link itself. So, all right, let's move forward to the last demo I have for you today. Is a cool one. This is about creating customized text, and this is actually leveraging AI. Before I get into that, I'm going to take a sip of water so I don't cough your ear off. Hang on one moment. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm sure a lot of you are AI users, probably use ChatGPT. And so one of the things that we've been experimenting with and what we've been building is a way to dynamically craft messages for deeper personalization. Find ways in which you can use tokens, use data that you know in your CRM or in HubSpot to actually prompt an AI So your prompt becomes a dynamic thing that's relevant for each individual contact or record that you're enrolling, that you're firing a prompt with. So the cool thing here is you can use data that you know and personalizations you know to then prompt GPT to generate unique messages that are specific to that particular contact or that particular record. And you can leverage things like interaction history, everything that you know about, say, a contact, and everything that HubSpot captures by default as that contact generates activity, and that activity is stored in the record. You can use that to prompt AI. One of the cool things that you probably see here is I'll show you a demo today. The screenshot is of something that Aptitude8 has built. It's a workflow extension that we've built that prompts AI. It's called Generate. And it helps us and our clients gain some efficiency through using the power of AI. And so I think it's really cool. It allows you to prompt ChatGPT, and then you can have ChatGPT generate a response and store that from the action output in the workflow, store that directly into a property that then you can recall as a personalization token elsewhere. So you're kind of, I guess it's kind of like Inception, using personalization tokens to create another potential personalization token, which I hadn't really thought about until right now. But cool thing to share with everybody. And I think I have Ryan Gunn's blessing to do this, but Generate is actually a workflow extension that Aptitude8 is working to make available in the app marketplace by the end of the year. So not only is this something that we've been using at Aptitude8 and using for our clients to be able to run these prompts into ChatGPT directly within workflow extensions in HubSpot, but I believe that's going to be something that's going to be forthcoming to the wider public, to the wider HubSpot ecosystem in the future. So, thanks, Ryan. I'm pretty sure. Okay. So let's get into those examples. Like, how can we use that, right? And so let's say that you are a workout company, or say you're a company that offers personalized workout plans, but you want to be able to do that at scale, and you want to be able to leverage ChatGPT to do that. Some of you might have seen Ryan Gunn's example of this on LinkedIn. But what you can do is you can create a form for your potential contacts or clients to fill out. It's got some details in here about what they want for their workout plan. And they can go ahead and submit that. And then you can use AI, you generate AI workflow action to say, when they've submitted that, you can send them a quick response. But then here you can get into prompting ChatGPT using the Generate workflow extension to prompt ChatGPT to create a personalized workout plan based on all the data, everything that contact gave you in the form. And so here you can see that we've put a prompt together, and we've been able to insert contact tokens to make that prompt relevant to this specific contact that's enrolled in the workflow, right? So then we can take that output, and we can take the prompt output that comes out of this action, and we can set it into a custom multi-line text field, personalized workout plan. And so here, this is one of the cool things that I think is that this allows you to deliver personalized experiences at scale, right? And I think we've got there can be a piece here where you can get someone to internally review that first. And let's say that has been reviewed and approved. As soon as that does, then it can fire off the personalized workout plan. Otherwise, it can wait up to 1 day before it goes out to the contact itself. And so here you can see that email that you see here is a very simple email. It's not listing anything other than, here's your workout plan, and then here's that personalization token that is filled by the prompt output from the AI. And so if we go ahead and take a look at this workflow or this email here with our test contact, we can see that Ryan filled out the form, and a day later he gets a personalized workout plan based on what he said in the form are his goals. And you can see that a human didn't have to build any of this. We were able to use data that was captured within a HubSpot form, turn it into a dynamic prompt for AI, have AI build the workout plan. You can obviously put a step in there for a human to review it, and it gets sent out. So really cool use case, really cool application of being able to pull AI into a HubSpot workflow and then store that in a personalization token and make your personalization token that much more powerful. Final example I have for you here is, let's say that you're sending out a sequence and you want to personalize a sales email intro. I think a lot of SDRs and BDRs know that a relevant personalized intro is going to be better received once you get somebody to open that email. And so here, what you can do is you can create a text property for actual multi-line text here that's personal sales email intro. And then from there, we can do this very similar thing here where we're going to build a workflow that says, hey, if they're in a sequence and they just got enrolled in a sequence, then let's prompt ChatGPT to say that they have GPT pretend that it's an SDR that's reaching out. We're going to put some details about the sequence itself and what we need out of it. But then we want to personalize it with the company that they work at, maybe the size of the company in the particular industry, where the contact came from, and the last page of this they saw on the website. Maybe we have information about their LinkedIn bio, and so we can put some LinkedIn stuff in here. We can have ChatGPT essentially be your SDR assistant who writes you a personalized email intro that you can plug directly into your sequenced email template. So we've got that. We are going to store that output into our custom property. And then we're going to jump into our sales email, our sequence email template. And we're going to see here that, you can see here that I've got the personalization token directly in here. This is the personalization token that was submitted or filled out by our prompt from AI. So cool way to personalize it at scale and allow you to get some relevant information into your sequence without your SDR, BDR, or AE needing to do a bunch of manual research to find ways to make that particular email unique to that contact or lead that you're sending. So overall, I would say as you are getting into using or thinking about implementing personalization, like I would encourage you to experiment. A lot of the stuff that we covered today and a lot of the stuff that that I've had success with in personalization before has really only come from failing in the past. And a lot of the demos and a lot of the things that we put together in the deck today are built on failures from the past. So I want to help you learn from different ways in which things have been broken in the past and we've learned how to fix them. So, I think the motto that I like to carry is, as we think about personalization is you got to get in there. You got to break it to build it. Don't get paralyzed by, trying to make sure your personalization is perfect. Do consider those questions that we talked about, how it's going to be used and what the fallback value is going to be. But make sure that you're getting in and actually using it, testing it out, build it in a sandbox. Make sure that things are you're ironing out how you want to put it in there. Because I think one of the cool things is that you really get personalization at scale using some of these things. So long as you are just, you're trying new things, trying to find a way to make it happen. That being said, I wanted to leave some time for Q&A. It looks like we have a little bit. So what can I answer for you guys? Or is there anything I can answer?
Yeah. So everybody, if you want to head over to the Q&A panel, upvoting is back. Hooray. So we will work through questions from most upvotes to least upvotes. While you all are working on that, Brian, let me just say, you did great. I learned things about HubSpot today, which doesn't often happen to me. So I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate you sharing all this expertise. And we definitely have some questions for you. So if your voice can hold out, just
I'm so sorry for coughing so much.
But
I would love to answer some stuff, and I promise I'll do my best to not cough while I do it.
I'm going to do my best not to cough while I'm asking the questions too. So we'll make
Okay.
quite a team.
Right.
Valerie asks, is there the nope, not going to make it. Is there the possibility to use if-then conditions for token default values?
If then conditions for token default values. I'm not aware of a way to do that. I don't like saying no as an answer,
You
but
got to
I'm
break it
not
to
sure. I'm not sure that you can dynamically change the default value of a token.
So, the, Valerie, I think we'd love to hear more about your use case here. And I mean, the
Yeah.
12 of you who upvoted this also, because the idea of the default value is that if there is no value, that's what you're going to display. And in that case, in that regard, it's not really personalization, I guess. It's just sort of a placeholder. But
Yeah. Yeah. It would be helpful to know. I think like the idea is that your personalization token is the piece that is leveraging your if then logic and providing whatever value you need based on your if then logic. So I think the default piece is kind of you get one default value to define per that instance of your personalization token use. But if there's maybe something more that we can explore, please hit me up on LinkedIn, find me or something like that, and we can talk about it a little bit more.
Great. Jessica asks, how necessary is a clean and complete database to ensure the right messages go out?
Oh, Jessica, you asked the $1 million question. It is paramount. You only personalization tokens are only as good as the data that they are leveraging and that they are serving. So if your CRM is a mess, if you don't have date graded governance, and you have values that are all over the place, and that goes back to that, like consider how you're using it and why you're using it. What shape is my data in to be able to do that? That's going to be a really important piece to consider first. And if you want to get started with personalization, but you know that there's data problems, data cleanliness problems that you got to think about, I would encourage you to first focus on those before you start implementing a lot of personalization. Because again, personalization is just a tool, is just an arrow in your quiver that you can use. It's only going to be as good as the data that you put into it, just like reporting, right? So, you want to make sure we're putting good in so that we get good out.
On a related note, Willem asks, any advice for building in fail-safes, especially in marketing emails? It's not always convenient to see the email that the recipient received with the properties populated. I would expand that to include what happens in a lot of these advanced use cases if there's a null value, like if you're doing an image or something like that.
If there's so more so going back to, is that more of a data quality or data?
I think just in like
because the default value is going to be the experience that personalization token is going to drop back to if something doesn't work. Now, if you have old data in your CRM and there is a value that exists for that particular property that you're trying to recall in the token, then it's going to recall that value. So if the data that's in there is not accurate, is not appropriate, then there's really no fail safe that you can put in place to make sure that do a data check first before that token fires. So really it goes back to like what kind of governance do you have over the data in the CRM? How clean and up to date is that data? And goes back to like, again, your use case. Why are you implementing this token? Does it make sense in this case? Like, are all of my company logo URLs super old, or did we move them to a different folder in the file manager and now they're actually all broken? Something something you would want to check first before you actually go and implement that personalization, right? And as you're doing it, like I encourage you to test and test and test before you fire off that token in that email or do something like that.
I guess also as you're building properties to make these things happen, thinking about what the default value should be, right? Like if you're doing a dynamic URL, maybe the default value should take people to your homepage, right? So they don't 404 or something. Or if you're doing images dynamically, maybe some placeholder image of the right size or your own logo or something is the right thing to put there.
Yeah, like the demo we had where we were sending people to a relevant webinar landing page. If a webinar landing page doesn't exist for that slug, or if somebody does not answer that particular property in the form, then we want to make sure that we've got a default value in there that's going to fall back to, say, like the homepage or to a general webinars listing page. Something that, again, thinking about what is that experience when that value doesn't exist or that token won't fire, then or won't recall a value from a property. Where are you sending them in that case, right? And then you could also, like, I mean, you could even get more granular and say like, oh, well, if I don't have landing pages set up for every single one of those slugs, but I'm showing all of them in the form, maybe I need some 301 redirects for now to cover the ones that I don't have landing pages for, and I'm going to send them all to over here, right? So some more like technical considerations based on how you're configuring it and like specific to the use case that you're trying to implement the token.
Cool. Eileen asks, can HubSpot tokens be used outside of landing pages, like on our HubSpot connected WordPress site?
Ooh, I'm not aware of them being able to be used outside of the HubSpot platform. So I think in that sense, you could still recall stuff in, say, like your WordPress site or other systems, but you'd want to do so from an integration perspective and not so much using a personalization token. So you could think about, if you are firing a WordPress page or loading a WordPress page, but you're dynamically pulling something from HubSpot, outside of it being, say, like a form, I don't know that you can really use a token in a WordPress page. I'm gonna look into that. I don't think so. I'm like 98% sure that you can't do that. But now I got my wheels turning about the tracking script and what's possible with the tracking script.
Yeah.
Somebody could probably check me on that in the chat. Like somebody might know more than I do, but I'm like 98% sure that you cannot do that.
That matches my intuitions too. But I think the official advice here, Eileen, is go break it to build it.
There you go.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that the tracking code is going to pull the personalization token code that we saw, right? The braces and everything, like that's pretty specific to HubSpot. So I think in that case, if you're trying to load content or data or something dynamically on a third-party page based on data that's known in HubSpot, you're probably more so talking about an integration and making sure you're mapping properties to that third-party platform that you're using.
Okay. We have more questions, but we have okay, we'll try one last one.
Okay.
Let's see. So Chad asks, can you speak to using CRM properties at the CMS Hub website page, landing page level for personalization? Aren't there some sort of limitations around using data from the CRM on a public page?
I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to have a great answer here. I don't do a lot with CMS Hub pages and being able to recall those within CMS Hub pages. Like if you have a website on a website page, my understanding would be that personalization token would still fire on that page and load on that page regardless. Obviously, you can't store sensitive data in HubSpot in certain ways, but I don't know that there's anything that would prevent you. I just don't have enough experience building CMS pages themselves. So I'd probably want to take that offline and get back to what was the person's name?
I already moved on from that.
Oh, well, I find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. Let's talk about it and let's test it, because
There's Chad.
Chad. My intuition says that there shouldn't be a limitation for CMS pages, but depending on the type of CMS pages you're building, maybe there is. I'd say maybe we can dive into that a little bit more and shoot me a message about it, and we'll see what we can do.
Cool. Well, we are just about at time here. Thanks again so much. Sounds like LinkedIn is your preferred place for people to find you. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they can also send me an email. I realize I don't think I put my email in here. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Brian Serocke, or my email is just B and then my last name, SEROCKE @aptitude8.com. So you can drop me an email there. I'll put it in the chat too. Deanna, appreciate you, Deanna. Already on it. So yeah, that's it. And then if there's anything that Aptitude8 can help you with, implementations, integrations, finding ways to optimize or extend HubSpot, we're here for you. Reach out to us. We'd love to help.
Amazing. We are right at the hour. Thanks everyone for being here again, and we'll get this recording sent out as soon as we can. Brian, thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great Tuesday.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.